One of the things I talk about at this ministry, and as I said, I lead the senior managers group, and by definition, that's an older group.
Okay.
Generally baby boomers, not all, but baby boomers. And when they find themselves out of work, one of the first questions I ask is, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Good question.
Because many people have worked 20, 30 years at the same company, never really gave much thought to what they want to do in their career.
Right.
And what I talk about in this book is, before you start a search, you need to determine what you want to be when you grow up. And by that I mean, do you want to continue to work for a big company if you've been in a big company?
Right.
If you were in the public sector, did you like it? Is that what you want to do, or do you want to move in the private sector? Do you want to do what I did, consult? I didn't want to work for a company anymore.
Sure.
I wanted to be able to start my own company and do that. So it's very, very important to know what you're looking for. And there's a chapter in this book that actually covers your ideal company, your ideal boss, and the ideal job. And it helps you walk through what's really important to you. And I did that for myself. I said, what's important in my life? And one of the things that was important was the ability to teach and learn. So if I start there, how many companies give you the ability to teach, but learn a new business or learn new opportunities?
Right.
I have definitions for my ideal boss, what I'm looking for. You spend so much time at work. You actually spend more time at work than you spend with your family.
That's right. That's right.
And if you're going to be unhappy at work, you're going to be miserable. So many executives, even CEOs, will say to me, you know, I just never thought of it that way.
Right.
Because you've never had to think of it that way. So now that you're between jobs, it's a great time to start and say, what do I want to do with the next part of my career?
Yeah, and I was just going to say, I think that is so good, because I did a talk a couple of weeks ago about the ABCs of goal getting. And first you must acknowledge what it is you want.
Right.
And then you must believe that you can have what you want. And then you must commit to the process of possessing what you want. And many times what I find, even in my own coaching and consulting, is that people just don't know what they want.
Right. Oh, that's absolutely true. The last chapter in this book talks about your job search and landing plan.
Okay.
Search and landing. It's not just a search plan because you want to land.
Sure.
And it really starts with the end in mind. And that is, when do you expect to land? What kind of position are you looking for? What is your geographical limits?
Right.
What's your compensation? And that will help determine when you can land. So if you say, you know, I'm looking for several $100,000 a year, but I need to be in Clear Lake only, and I want to land in 2 weeks, I'm going to say that's not going to happen.
Right.
But it allows you to backwards fill the activities you need to take to assure that you land on that date. Now, if you miss that date, which most people do, and that's quite all right, we can then talk about why. Did you set the compensation much higher than the market's paying now?
Right.
Did you limit your geography? And rather than looking at a national search, you kept it too local? Are the positions or the industries you're looking at too narrowly focused, or ones that are being hurt by this economy? Are there other opportunities out there? Putting a plan in place enables you to look objectively at all of that, rather than say, I'm out of work, I guess tomorrow I'll make some calls. I guess the following day I'll see if I could set up some lunches. The informality of conducting a job search, any different than you would conduct a project at work, makes no sense. So you want to develop a project plan just like you would have to at your business.
Right. Good. So what I hear you saying is that to look for a job is a job.
Yes, it is.
And it has to be treated with that same respect.
Exactly. And you need to understand what your competencies are.
Okay.
How are you different than other candidates?
Okay.
And stay away from trite terms that everyone uses. For example, I talk about in the book, you know, I never use the term I'm a team player.
Okay.
Simply because how many people are team destroyers?
Right.
I mean, is anybody going to walk into an interview and say, well, I'm not a team player?
Right.
Or I'm not results oriented? How does that differentiate yourself? If you talk about the effectiveness of how you work in a team environment and understand different personalities and how to work with different people to achieve team success faster than others can, that's a differentiating factor. So you need to stay away from the common terms that the other 10 candidates who come in right after you at an interview are going to say. How do you go to an interview, and let's assume that the CEO is interviewing you for a position and he's got or she has 10 candidates lined up right behind you.
Right.
What are you going to say that's different than the other 10 candidates? And you need to think about that before you go to an interview, and you need to understand exactly what that company is looking for, what that company's weaknesses are or opportunities or threats to their business, and how you as a candidate can create value in that organization. And the candidates that do that differentiate themselves and land faster and can land their ideal job because they go out and sell their services and market their services to the companies that match and align with what they're looking for.
Wow. So basically what we have is a need, and then we have a supply for that need, so we have a happy marriage there at that point.
There are times, unfortunately, I have individuals come back to the ministry, they've landed a position, and maybe out of work a year, and come back 2 months later, and I said, what happened? Gerry, I never asked the right questions. I didn't learn exactly what they were looking for. The job is different than I thought it was. Is it different than what you asked it was? Well, I really didn't ask a lot. I didn't want to look a gift horse in the mouth. And so now you're back. So having that marriage of what the company is looking for and needs and how that matches what you do is very, very important. Or you could land and in a very short period of time be out of work again.
Out of work again. So I guess this is why, as you mentioned, it is so important before you start the job search to understand who you are and what it is that you bring to the table. You know, what are your unique selling points,
absolutely.
And then make sure that the company has a bona fide need for that, and then look at the atmosphere and environment in which that will take place to find out if that's the place for you.
And I talk about this in terms of your ideal boss, and I use an example back in the 70s. I had an individual work with me, and we had a little difficulty, and he came back to me 4 days later and said, you know, we spend about 10 hours a day together. I travel about 2 hours back and forth to work, that's 12. I sleep about 6, that's 18. I only spend about 6 hours with my family. I spend a lot more time with you and my coworkers than I do with my family. We better get along. Absolutely true. So when you look at a company and you look at your boss and you look at the organization you're working with, assure that it aligns with your values and what you're trying to accomplish, or you're not going to be happy. And either your performance is going to deteriorate and you're going to lose your position, or you're going to want to leave because, Gerry, I didn't ask the right questions to begin with.
Exactly.
And that the book goes through a lot of that and how to try to find your ideal job. And of course, how to land it fast. And one of the things I ask candidates that are interviewing is you should be able to answer this question. So why are you here? If an interviewer, and I'll do that with candidates now, so why are you here? It better be an alignment issue. I see your need and I see what's happening, and go from there.
And as we were talking earlier about being prepared, and I guess to have a question like that asked to an interviewee, they would definitely need to be prepared in order to be able to answer that question.
And one thing you don't want to do, and a lot of what I talk about in this book is as much of what not to do as what to do. And one of the things you don't want to do is say, that's a good question, haven't thought of that. Because you're going to eliminate yourself. Now, you might say that's a good question, but here's the answer. So you need to be prepared before you go into the interview to answer a question like that. Why are you here? Not because, well, you posted the position, and so I thought I'd apply. That's not going to differentiate you from the other candidates that might walk in that talk exactly about how they fit in the organization.
Exactly. So I guess what we're saying, the person that's best prepared is the person who gets the job.
Yes, and I have this quote in the book, often the best prepared wins.
Wow.
And it is clear the best prepared wins. The one who knows the most about the company, knows most about the person they're interviewing with, and how their values might align with your values are the ones that are going to differentiate themselves and be remembered. If I'm interviewing 6, 7, 8 candidates today, I'm not going to remember everyone.
Right.
Who are the 2 or 3 that I and my team of leaders remember? Those are the ones that are going to be called back.
Exactly, exactly. Can you share a little bit about the Wednesday meeting that actually takes place?
Sure. It's again held at Northwest Bible Church in Spring.
Okay.
On Fellowship Lane. Our particular group, the senior managers group, that is generally managers of managers.
Okay.
And the reason this ministry has this group is because the job search for senior managers is different.
Okay, okay.
Basically, the way they work with recruiters is different than non-senior managers, let's put it that way. The meetings start at 7:15. I lead the group. It starts, of course, with a prayer and a devotional.
Okay. And
it ends at 8:30, and of course the ministry has a lot of other services there, interviewing skills, and we have created through the senior managers group what we call job search work teams.
Okay.
And that is a group of folks that get together once a week that hold each other accountable, almost as if it's your staff.
Okay.
So you show up each week presenting your numbers, talking about how many hours you put in or how many letters you've written and so forth.
Excellent.
But folks help each other in those groups answer questions such as, have you faced age discrimination and how do you handle it?
Okay.
And we coach and counsel people on that, and the teams do that. It's really, really very effective too.
Good. And also, before we go, I definitely want you to talk, because as you mentioned that, it reminded me when we were talking in the back about the board of directors.
Yes.
Share that concept.
And that to me is a very important concept. A board of directors is a group that can lead you through your search process that is not your husband, wife, or significant other. And basically they have a subjective interest in what you do, and it could be financial and so forth. A board of directors looks at your search plan and will tell you, like a boss, whether you're working hard enough at it, whether you're following the right path. We'll coach you through interviews. We'll say, let's post-project review an interview, how well you did or didn't do. It really helps you hold yourself accountable. It's a great concept of having executive leaders, and it could be neighbors, business folks, 1 or 2, that you can meet with every week or talk on the phone about your search, different than a family member.
Good, okay. So that board of directors is there to guide you to your chosen destination.
Right, right. And if you're off track, help you back on track, again, as a boss or a mentor would, and help you with the interviewing process. It's really been very, very helpful to senior managers stay on track.
Okay, good, good, wonderful. Well, definitely we have run out of time. We've definitely had prayer requests to come in. And as I was sharing with you before we came on set, that I know this interview could go over 4 to 5 sessions, because I know you had so much to share. But we have individuals who have called in for prayer, and we believe that prayer changes things as well as it changes people. So we just want to touch and agree in prayer as we pray for these prayer requests and these individuals that are called in. Dear God, we thank you for these individuals that have called in. Dear Lord, you know their situations, you know their concerns. God, we know that you answer prayer. God, touch them where they are. Let their desires, let their requests come to pass. Let all their needs be met by Christ Jesus. God, just allow your peace to comfort them as they persevere through their challenge.